Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Welcome back to another video. We're still working on the Mega Cab, and we got to the best part of the build series so far, and it's going to be actually installing the turbo and the second gen swap piping kit. So I'm sure y'all are wondering whose second gen swap kit I'm going with. This is a Keaton Samples kit right here. So Samples Performance Fab, a really quality kit in terms of just like the welds you can see here, the parts being used, very simple kit, but very high quality. You can see just the oil drain, the oil feed, and then kind of the coolant block-offs and the oil fittings right there, and the coolant block-offs, and then the reroute for the coolant as well. And then this is kind of the big deal right here. I mean, look at these welds. This is the one that I chose to go with. Very responsive. He's an awesome dude. He's on Facebook as well. You can find him. Do your research and forums. But here's these welds right here. Look at that. Fancy. It looks really good. Those are for our two sensors. And then here is our intercooler piping. You can see right here. Everything looks really good. I left it bare because I didn't really feel like going to powder coat this time. So this is what you get. So it has a raw stainless look to it. But there is the other half of the intercooler piping. And then it just comes with all your other hardware. And then it comes with your spacer for your turbo. And then all the stud kit and everything. And then the last part of the swap that did not come with the kit, but I plan on running, is going to be the mid pipe, or I call it that. But that is running off the back of our turbo. I'll show you where that... But overall, super excited to put this on. This is what's really going to bring the truck to life. Yeah, the stuff we've been working on is kind of, you know, the necessities to support the horsepower that we plan on making with this in the tuning. So it's kind of more of the fun side of it. It's going to go quicker. It's easy to work on. So wanted to do this last, so it's a good home stretch to firing the truck up and getting it all running right. But that's the idea, is to go ahead and get all this installed tonight. And then after that, we should be able to do the 5-inch exhaust. And then from there, first fire, and we'll see how she runs. But stay tuned for this one. We'll get to work. So here on the table, you can kind of see what we got. Let's look at the truck first, though. Here's what we have left. As in previous videos you saw, we're working from the right side over to the left side. So here's what we got. Open engine bay, all the room. And we're going to fill this void with our spicy turbo. We have a Garrett GT42 94. This is a 70 millimeter compressor wheel, an 82 millimeter turbine wheel, and then a 1.05 housing. So this turbo right here is kind of the best of both worlds in terms of towing and then kind of high-end performance. It's going to spool quick, and then it's going to stretch it out through the RPM range and not fall on its face. So that's what we're going to go with as far as turbo. And got this from Andrew Terry off of Facebook. He has awesome units, kind of the best on the market. This is the one that I chose to go with. And this is going to be a good turbo that will be able to handle bigger injectors and bigger CP3 on later down the road. So stock fuel is not going to push this turbo to its limit. That was another thing, is the build that I plan on for this truck was, you know, we're going to kind of do an horsepower increments. We're going to throw the turbo on now that we plan on kind of maximizing power with, and then we'll just step up in fuel as we go along. And that is what this turbo right here is going to serve its purpose for. And then, as you can see, steed speed manifold ran in a flipped up position. All right, so first thing first, you're just going to want to go ahead and install your stud kit. This one came from Stainless Diesel. I've always used these, always turned out really well. No problem with them. So we're just going to take that and then stud them in through here. Once you stud them in, then you can go ahead and push your gaskets on there, and then we can hang the manifold. All right, guys, so we got everything on. You got the gasket and you got the studs. And then on our manifold, we are going to go ahead and drill a hole about right here. This is going to be for our EGT probe. We're just going to drill right here. Thought about going on the bottom side, but just running the wires underneath back over the top of the engine is just not going to work that way. So we're just going to plug these two up. We're going to drill the same exact hole on the opposite side right here. Somewhere right in there. You're going to need a 21/64 drill bit, and then just go ahead and get your 1/8 inch MPT tap. Don't run it down too far. You're only going to want to run it down about a 1/2 inch or about halfway, and then you're good to go. So let's go ahead and start drilling. All right, so we got that tap. We got that in there. Not the straightest tap, but it's the perfect depth. I did go ahead and drop the probe in there, and it runs about halfway down. The probe ends about right here, so perfect as far as depth wise goes. So that's what it's going to look like on top, and then we can route this wherever we want. We just don't need to bend this. That needs to stay there, but this is kind of some flex, and then we can move that anywhere we want. So that's that. If we ever want to come back and do something different, we can put a drive pressure gauge in here. We can do something else, but as of right now, they're just going to be plugged like that. I'll tighten these up. We'll get this thrown on and catch back up with you. Finally. Okay. All right, here's our steed speed manifold mounted. Looks good as always, flipped up position. Now we just keep on following the parts, which is our spacer, which we're gonna do a gasket, spacer, and then gasket. And then we're gonna pull our turbo apart and just mount the exhaust housing. Make sure we get our hardware all tightened up in position, and then we'll slide in the rest of the guts of the turbo, the compressor wheel and everything. So we're gonna mount this first. You can see T4, T4, and then T4 right here. Everything's gonna bolt up. So let's go ahead and get the spacer and our gaskets on there, and then break apart the turbo and set it on there. And then we'll kind of get a little look-see to see just how it's gonna sit up there, see what kind of clearances we have up top. May have to do some trimming. May have to move around the dipstick for the transmission. So I almost forgot about these, but these are your studs that will thread into your manifold. I can do this one-handed, but the studs supplied in the kit are a little bit longer because of the spacer to clear the compressor housing. So you just want to thread them in here like this. Nothing fancy. Once they start, run them all the way down, and then you're good to go. And we can do that for all of them. There you go. There you go. And then last one, but certainly not least. All right, now we can hang our turbo. But here's our gasket. We're gonna run this gasket right here. Doesn't matter which side, just go ahead. There's that. And then the block right here. Doesn't matter which side, just pick a side. There we are. And then let's go pull our turbo apart. All right, so here's our turbo. So we're just gonna go ahead and take that off, and we're gonna plug that with another 1/8" MPT. We can run this one right here. All right, there we go. We have it plugged. Used a little bit of RVT on it, but that's okay. Now we're just gonna pull this apart. All right, so here's our turbo torn apart. As you can see, here is the internals of it. Turbine wheel, and then our compressor wheels inside there. Or our drain on the back side, and then our feed right here. So we'll clock it the correct orientation it needs to be. But as far as just getting this bolted up, it's much easier when you're not having to work around the entire unit itself. This exhaust housing is a lot lighter. Picking it up, this is our welded flange on here, as you can see, all the way around. This butts up to our mid pipe right here. This is the side that bolts to the turbo. We'll get that all knocked out as well. But here's our bolt holes, and then here's our hardware to tighten it down. So make sure you get the flange nuts. A whole lot easier to stick them on there and tighten them down. We don't have to deal with a nut and a washer. So let's go ahead and mount this on there. All right, just like that, the turbine and exhaust wheel are on there. So we got that. Look at her free spin. She's a nice unit. So we just want to keep this straight up and down. The feed right there. We can clock it a little bit if we need to, but that's straight up and down. And then we did have to turn this around so this is facing up. So when we go to take anything apart, it's easy to get to. And then now we get the compressor housing, but just in little baby steps. Here's what it looks like. Here's how it clears. Obviously, we're gonna have to do some trimming back there on that plastic, but for now, we're gonna see what it does. And we may have to wrap stuff in heat wrap, but it looks okay. So we're gonna get the compressor housing on, get everything loosely tightened up, and then start kind of routing the intercooler boots, and then trying to fit up our downpipe off that. And then here is our compressor housing, a good little unit, nice, shiny, brand new Garrett. So looking good. So here's what we're gonna run with. Let's go throw this on. All right, guys, so here's a pretty good look at what the truck is going to look like with the turbo on. Looks fantastic, especially when we add the intercooler piping in. But as of right now, that is it. It's not tightened down, so we can still move the compressor housing. but she looks good. Between the raw intake horn to the billet valve cover to the raw turbo, I really like the look. Clean, simple. The Steed Speed manifold looks good sitting there. We had the high mount kit. It's right up there, right when you pop the hood. Exactly what you want. So that is about half of it installed. We'll go over kind of now the, I wouldn't say boring stuff. Obviously, we still have the intake and then the 2 intercooler piping. But then we got to block off everything that, you know, used to go to the VGT. We got to block that off, reroute it with coolant, and then get our air filter all bolted in, and then our clamps, and then get our mid pipe / down pipe bolted on, and just see how everything lines up. And then from there, we'll start knocking out the exhaust. But this has been a fun install. Glad I saved it to the last part of the build series because it's pretty easy. Really take my time, and we're knocking things out. All right, guys, so it is the next morning. As you can see, we do have the intercooler piping in. Everything fits really nice now. Went ahead and did some trimming on the battery box just because of the way the turbo is clocked, and then also getting close to the compressor housing to the manifold. It was just easier that way. I don't really want anything under tension the entire time or at a bad fitment. So now it kind of, this is the way it naturally lines up. I don't even really have anything clamped and everything's piecing together. So we'll kind of go into detail on this. I'll take it apart real quick and show you just what we did to get it fit. Here's what the piping looks like, kind of backed off the truck, the whole kit. We'll keep chugging along. It's early Saturday morning, so let's get to work. All right, guys, so there it is, bolted on. Everything is tight. It is not going anywhere. I mean, you can't move it at all. Compressor housing's tight. This clamp's tight. That clamp's tight. And it looks really, really good. We're working down below now on the intercooler piping. We got both those clamps. I'm going to spin them just a little bit so we can have them shoot them straight down so we can get an extension on them and get the nut on there. All right, so now we're good to go. Now we're gonna work on the coolant, get everything blocked off and then rerouted like it says we should. And then we're gonna go ahead and start working on the exhaust. So over here on the coolant, go ahead and use this piece first. This is just gonna install like this. It goes on the reservoir of your tank. And then as you can see, it'll just bolt up. All right, install like that. Then you just go ahead and route this one up to your firewall, way up there. And this one's gonna route to the bottom port right there. But we gotta go ahead and get our fittings all bolted on first. This is just showing you the way it routes, but we wanna take it back off right here. Because on the end of this one, we're gonna go ahead and install this into that port right down below that I just showed you. This will screw on here, it's just an AN fitting. And then this is a push lock. And this hose will push onto here. So let me go ahead and push all that on and kind of show you the way it's gonna route. And then this other side, we're just gonna use hose clamp and then hose clamp, and then we're done because it goes way back there behind the turbo into the firewall. So we're knocking it out one step at a time. This is gonna be kind of the hardware part of the install, so nothing too fancy, but honestly cleans up the engine bay, reroutes everything the way it should be. So let's go ahead and get this mounted up. All right, so we got that installed, pretty simple. Here's the fitting, which is just basically a plug, but it has a pass-through design in it to allow coolant to flow. And then you're going into a 90-degree push lock fitting. This is -10 AN threads on it. And then you have your 10 millimeter to hold everything down on that first fitting. And then you just route it right here. And it'll route right here. And then we're gonna go ahead and work on the heater core. You can see that one, that's by itself. Let me zoom in. That's the one it's going to. So we got everything for that as well. And then this one will just kind of hang out right here, out of the way. We can push it in a little bit just to make sure everything fits good. But there we are right there. So looks good. Let's go ahead and start working on that one. All right, there she is all installed. You can see the hose clamp up there. We got one right there. And then we also tightened up our fitting back down there, as you can see. So the coolant reroute is all done. Now it is just getting up there into the turbo for our oil drain, which will drain into the block. And then also our oil feed. And then we have one last coolant fitting that we need to block off. If you can see that right there, has a little bit of dripping coolant. We'll wipe that up though. We'll screw a plug into that block. We have two fittings up here that are still open. One of them I ended up getting some different parts to route, which is that back one. That one's gonna go straight to the heater core. Instead of running a plastic fitting with a quick connect, we're gonna run AN line, kind of like we did on the second gen from that port. And then this one right here is just gonna be plugged. And to the best of my knowledge, that is it. A lot of loose electrical plugs. We just need to get our air intake installed, put that on, and then we'll get kind of a final product. But as of right now, that's the way she sits. Thing I need to figure out is what are we gonna do with this? I'm not really sure yet. That's our transmission dipstick. If it gets too close to turbo, it'll melt. If it gets too close back there, then it will touch the manifold. So we're gonna see what we can do about that. All right, so here's our oil feed fitting right here. You can see it. This has the O-ring from the other one. And then on the side of the oil filter housing is your port. So we're just gonna thread this in, just like that. Get it tight enough to where you feel the O-ring seal. Then we wanna run our oil feed. We're gonna go under the air intake and then wrap back around up on top. And then before we do that, here's our fitting for the turbo. And then just like the second gen, I want to put some red Loctite on the threads just to seal it. So we have no issues there. Worked well on that one. There we are. There we go. Here is our line. That will screw on here like this. There we are. And then we can find here actually. All right, so right up there is the oil drain. So if you all can see that on video, great. I'm gonna try to get it from the top side, just so y'all have some reference to see and watch. All right, so not the easiest thing to get up in there, but we do have it tight with our two 10 mils. And then I ended up taking the hose off, so that's gonna lay right there. And then our block fitting is right there. So we're gonna go ahead, get this in, thread it onto there, and push it down into the block. And that will take care of our oil drain line. Everything looks really good so far. All right, so looking down there, there is our fitting pressed into the block. Good tight fitment. We just need to tighten our threads right there, and that'll complete the oil side of the turbo. Last thing we're gonna do is gonna go up in here and install that last plug. It's over here on the table. I got one right here, or really the one that I have is right here already. It takes a 8 millimeter and we'll just thread it in and call it good. All right, so you ended up having to take the entire fitting out. As you can see, it's in there pretty good So here's the factory one, and then here's the one that you installed right over here. They look exactly alike, and that is going to round out the rest of all the fittings and hardware as far as the oil and the coolant go. We can move back up top and start getting our air intake done. I already have the boot on there, but we need to go ahead and install our sensors, which go on the bottom right here, and then our air intake filter with our clamps, and that will be it. Then we start working on the downpipe, but I'm going to cut that into another video and do the exhaust all by itself. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Obviously, a very fun install, very big part of the build. Basically, the main ingredient, just looking at it, looks amazing. Can't really get over just how the truck looks different underneath the engine bay. This is my first high mount kit on a 6.7, so really looking to see what it's all about and also see the power it can make. But there it is. Kit honestly went together really well. The only thing that we had to do was trim the battery box right here. Nothing too bad. Just really wanted to make sure that we had a good fit on our intercooler piping, and that is solid, not going anywhere. So yeah, super excited to see the truck start up, see what it sounds like. Obviously, it's going to sound really good. 5-inch straight pipe with a high mount kit with a steed speed manifold is basically the best sounding exhaust setup you can get for a 6.7. So stay tuned for first fire. Next video we're going to get is the exhaust, and then we're going to do the electrical as far as the CTS goes, and then it's ready to start. And we're going to see what kind of power she makes, if she's a certified ripper, and then we're going to go from there. So be sure to like this video, share it where you talk diesel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Boss out.